Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Making financial decisions shouldn't feel like picking a TV show. Too many options, too much hype, and no way to know what's actually good. NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast cuts through the clutter. Their finance journalists break through real-world money decisions with clear research-backed insights. From investing to home buying to credit cards, the nerds help you navigate major financial decisions with confidence. Leave TV to fate. Leave your next financial move to the nerds. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast wherever you listen.
Empire. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone. I went to game 2 last night, Callow. I was there. This was Archer's, he's 12 now, first ever Caps playoff game. So chalk it up for the home team. Fan for life. We got fan for life.
I almost texted you, like, if they lose, you and Archer, the last time it would have been Nats and the Orioles game where they didn't score a run, in that wild card game. I was going to be like, you guys got the bad playoff juju going, but they won. So you don't have to worry about that for last night.
I mean, like rhythms of sport, I expected them to win last night. Some way, somehow. This is not a dog team. They are supposed to be there. They're not going to get swept. It's nothing like that that's going to happen. This is a 6 or 7 game series. Any way you shake it. I'll talk about a lot of it. Everybody wants me to start with football, so I will. And I'll talk a lot more about it in a little bit because I was there and I'll just give you my thoughts. But I still think right now Carolina is the better team. And that bothers me still as this thing kind of moves along. But I did like the life that was shown there. Tom Wilson was freaking awesome last night. So there was a lot of life shown there. Logan Thompson's really locked in. There's a lot of good that's going on here. But I still do feel like they're going to have to steal this series. That's how I kind of feel about it going into game 3 and 4 this weekend.
Without going into too much detail as well, the thing that you just said, though, is probably the most important mismatch is we have the better goaltender. Like, yes. Far and away, we have the better goaltender.
Yes, no doubt.
Anderson 2 games in a row now. I get it. They were open chances, but has seen the chance coming and couldn't stop it.
That's right.
So, those are the saves you need to have. He has not had them. That's 1. And then 2, I was actually talking about it with our friend Scott Jackson yesterday. I was on his show yesterday talking Caps. And I had landed on this with the Caps. The Caps had too many good players for them all to stay as quiet as they did in game 1. And look at what happened last night. Like, Michael scores a goal. Carlson steps up and scores a goal.
Yeah.
Wilson was an absolute force. I mean,
yeah.
Missile on the ice. Ovechkin's quote on him yesterday was amazing. I don't know if you heard him. That he was asked about Wilson, and he just goes, "Yeah, he's our leader." I mean, that's the captain saying, deferring to him that he's the leader. So, yeah, those are the 2 factors that they're like too good to only score 1 goal. So that's how I felt going into it yesterday.
I agree. So I think this is going to be a long series. I don't love how relentless Carolina is, especially on their forecheck. God, there are periods of time where you can't get the puck out of a zone with them. They're just all over you. And the Capitals have a better goaltender and more skilled finishers. So this is going to be interesting as it goes along. I just cannot envision. I mean, if Thompson's going to be as locked in as he's been, then I think they could steal this series. If there's an off game where a couple softies get in or all this volume turns into a couple mucked up plays and goals and they just lose a game that way, I think that could be a difference too. So, all right. So we'll get back into it a little bit. All right. Since the draft, and rookie minicamp is starting this weekend. I'll get into Commanders in a moment. I don't really expect a lot. It was supposed to publicly be open today, but because the weather is so bad, they closed off that part to it. So I'm actually going to go out there tomorrow. So I'll have full recap of first real practice that I got to watch with the rookies, albeit with the rookies. I will do that on Monday with you. Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to a couple of the players, and we'll hear from Dan Quinn. And so we'll get a sense of kind of what's going on with them, and I'll give you a full recap of all of that on Monday. But I'll tell you, not that I'm surprised by this because we're not at OTAs yet. We're in the rookie part of this whole thing, but the players obviously are back in and out of town working out. I still think there's a clear need to upgrade at edge, and it hasn't happened yet. So of the things that I expect to occur this month at some point is an edge rusher. And of course, this popped up again because Jadeveon Clowney he's been a mercenary now for, a number of years. He is available. So add him to the list. Him, Zadarius Smith, Von Miller, if you're looking for big names of players who have had long careers and have been successful to certain levels, Von Miller to me is a Hall of Famer. Zadarius Smith and Jadeveon Clowney are very good players that have had great years at times, but never been that consistent. But they're available for you. So I'm still waiting, tick, tick, tick. I'm still waiting for the Commanders to bite on somebody here to bring in to bolster that part of their unit. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, no, I saw the Clowney, for release yesterday, and I thought the same thing. Is it a name that wows me? No, but it's a name that would fill the need. And they, as we've said time and time again, they need to get one more name in here to play a bunch of snaps, and he kind of fits that bill. It's funny. That's what we were comparing it to. They basically need a Clowney type because Clowney has done this for, I think, 10 years now. I mean, it's been a long time that he's been signing these one-year deals and just being a mercenary. There's nothing wrong with that. But I saw that and I was like, of course, the one comparison we have to what they need did just get released. I'm not opposed to it. They need to get a name in here. I don't really care who it is at this point. They need one more name to shore up that unit.
Yeah. I'm not looking for an answer long-term at the position. I think we're looking for somebody who's going to come in, fill a role, hopefully get 7 to 10 sacks over the course of the season, isn't going to be a full-time player. They are clearly devoted more to what they've built to try to be a better run defense than what they were a year ago. But that doesn't change the fact that they need to get a little more help with pass rush. And so I'm waiting to see what happens here. And if they can be a little better on first and second down against the run, I think it gives the room to bring in with these all packages to bring in an edge rusher and try to generate a pass rush. So I don't know if it's going to be a big name, but I think it's going to be somebody, and I just don't know who yet. And I think that'll be an interesting question for Dan. He won't answer it, but it'd be a good question for Dan Quinn, what happens there. The other two, and these things get forgotten about because the news cycles change, but Joel Corey, the former agent who writes for CBS, brought up all the unfinished business of the major things that he believes are going to happen this year. And among them was this, and he asked this question openly: what about Trey Hendrickson and what about JJ Watt? And they're two very, very different situations. Like, I don't think the Bengals are going to pay Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson's going to have to sit out. Like that, it's the only chance he's going to get to change the trajectory of his contract discussions. Will that force them to make a change to it? Well, if you've watched what they've done in the past, no, they made Jamar Chase wait out the end of his contract for 2 years to get the deal that he wanted. They waited T. Higgins out through the course of his full contract to get the deal he wanted. And it took franchising him to eventually get to the extension that he wanted. And so I think the same thing's going to happen to Hendrickson. If they follow suit with what they've done in the past, they don't preemptively change anybody's contract, even if Hendrickson is wildly underpaid here. So this is still one to watch. The problem was heading into the draft, they apparently wanted something, if they were even going to do it, which meant to me they weren't serious about it. They wanted something that nobody was going to give them, like a first-round pick or something like that, and pay him. Like, that's not going to happen. And I still don't think that that's going to happen. But what if the price point changes because they just can't work something out and it gets messy and he just really doesn't want to be there? And they did just draft an edge rusher. Like, I don't know. So that one is one to watch here. And I think it will bubble up again as we get through these practices if he doesn't show up to them, which is what I would expect he would not do in the spring.
Yeah, I was going to say the TJ Watt one is interesting because that was floated out there, but there wasn't a lot of momentum behind it, which tells me that there's probably something going on behind the scenes that they probably are reassuring him that, we will get this done eventually. With Hendrickson, I've just found it really weird, mainly because if you did want to get the compensation, you would have gotten it from this draft. I guess if you wanted to kick it to next year, you could, but Hendrickson falls in line with that catch-22 of, I don't think anyone wants to give up the compensation and then give him the new contract.
Correct.
He's not the type of player. Like, the people you weren't blinking at were, was like Myles Garrett, right? People were saying, we would absolutely trade for that guy and give up the contract. He's not the same type of player. So I also wondered, do the Bengals eventually bend too and decide, okay, well, let's get what we can? If you're also Cincinnati, you could be doing the old waiting to see if somebody has an injury in training camp or something like that. And then all of a sudden somebody needs him. And then maybe that move ends up happening. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, it's just been interesting with both of these guys. The rumors came out and then there was nothing. There was crickets, on draft day. And with the Steelers, what was really weird too was, Pickens gets traded this week, but there was only one little rumor about him being traded, and it still took a couple weeks after the draft for it to happen. So the trade market is clearly moving at a glacier pace right now. Like nobody's really in any kind of rush to shore up their rosters at this point.
Yeah, I think Hendrickson and Watt are two different cases, honestly. I think Hendrickson is a situation where TJ Watt's a Hall of Famer. Hendrickson is a very, very, very good player. Like Hendrickson kind of reminds me of Ryan Kerrigan in a lot of ways. Very consistent, really good player, always puts up numbers. No one calls him like best in the business at his spot. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, like they don't think that he's Max Crosby. I don't either.
Right.
like I don't either, right? Like there is a different level to some of these players. Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, TJ Watt for that matter. I think these are two different things. The TJ Watt one kind of spun a little bit because his contract's coming up. He put out an Instagram post. It was cryptic. People read into it. They have a lot of draft picks now for next year, so they're starting this reset thing. At the same time, they're talking about bringing in Aaron Rodgers as a bridge quarterback for them. And so I kind of feel like if they're still going after Rodgers and they're going to bring him in, it's not to weaken the team to the point where they can't actually compete. Because why would you bring in Rodgers if you're going to give away your best defensive player? Like that doesn't make sense to me. If Rodgers isn't going to sign with them and they're going to have a year where Mason Rudolph is probably their quarterback and they've already shipped off a couple of star players like George Pickens and they have 9 or 10 draft picks, whatever it is next year. So they're setting up for a reboot of the team. Then I could see where Watt gets dealt. But I think if Rodgers is coming there, I just have a hard time buying that they're trading him if that's what's happening, because why would you bring him in there if you weren't trying to win?
Well, and it's also one of those guys, too, where you and I have this discussion all the time with rosters. Why are you not going to pay that guy? Like that's a player that you want to have on your roster. There's no reason to let him go. I know he's had a couple of injuries, but he's bounced back and looked perfectly effective, is what I'm saying
and
here.
And Hendrickson, who's awesome, he is among best in the business.
Right.
So he's a defensive player of the year. Like, I don't know why you would move off of him unless you're rebooting and you're just deciding, look, we love you. You're going to go in our Ring of Honor, but we need to move on because we're changing this team. If they're going to get Aaron Rodgers, then they at least think in their mind that they're going to be competitive, whether that's true or not. And I think that might be fool's gold at his age and what his performance has been and, all the rigmarole that comes around with bringing him in. But he is, in my opinion, a better option than what they've had. If you're going to go to that length to bring him in, why would you then give away your best defensive player? Like, you got to give him a chance to actually win. So that wouldn't make sense to me. If Rodgers leaves them high and dry, they may think differently about it and go, all right, let's go, let's just go get what we can get right now for him.
Yeah, I mean, that, or, we've kind of talked about it here too, is like they go and trade for Cousins or something like that. Like that'll also be indicative of what happens here. Like if Rodgers ends up falling through, and they still don't trade Watt, then it means that they really aren't trying to hit the reset button at all. I've landed with Watt as well. Maybe he was just trying to leverage the Steelers because the Steelers do play hardball. They almost always do. They never really like giving up those big contracts, even to their own guys. And maybe that's him. Maybe that was him trying to get that ball rolling. Because the fact that we haven't heard anything, you know how this works in the league. When you haven't heard anything about it, it usually means they are talking behind the scenes or they have given him reassurances of like, calm down, we will take care of you,
Yeah, his brother was this way with Houston. He seems like the type of guy that if he could or would do a full career there. Like he doesn't seem like, even amid, maybe the Pittsburgh people know a little bit better, but that's a tough place to walk away from, especially when you're pretty successful and the legacy type of stuff. And I've never heard word one out of him that he doesn't like being there or doesn't like Tomlin or anything like that. So maybe it was a little bit like, hey, time to pay me. Look what's happening around here right now. I'm as good as all of those players. And I guess Pittsburgh's got to make that choice. Since you mentioned Kirk, a couple of the other things that Joe Corey brought up in his unfinished business thing of 2025 is him. He doesn't have a home yet. So that is possible. Actually, he might be waiting out Rodgers too. It's going to put Pittsburgh in an extremely desperate situation the number, if you trade for Kirk, actually isn't all that bad comparatively to like what the other major quarterbacks are making. And it is short term. Like even if you're forced to trade and take on basically all of the money, which apparently that was some of the balking with the Falcons was, we want you to pay some of the salary. But like, even if you had to take it on, if you could afford it under your cap, the number actually isn't really that terrible. And I think if you were willing to take on all the money and get Atlanta out from under it, you probably could get him for not a high draft pick. Like that's probably where the negotiation is. And Pittsburgh does have a lot of draft picks next year, so they could give away a late draft pick and it wouldn't be that big of a deal to them to bring him in as a bridge too. So maybe that's the play at this point, because otherwise start telling me where he's going to end up, because it feels like everyone else has gone, okay, that ship sailed. There are a number of teams that didn't have a quarterback issue coming in, and the ones that did, Cleveland just drafted 2 of them. They're not bringing in another one. They just brought in Kenny Pickett. Giants just drafted one of them and brought in 2 veterans. Like, you're running out of spots here for him to go. There's only so many chairs left. So I don't know where he's going to end up if it isn't Pittsburgh, honestly.
Well, he also has a no trade clause. So you don't know who actually called. And he was like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to go there. So that's the other side of this. Like Kirk, even on his 3rd contract now that he signed, is still the master of negotiating and figuring out where he wants to go. So that's the other side of this too, is you don't know who actually called. And he was like, nah, I don't really want to go there. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. He pretty much said to the Falcons, you got to work with me, because he showed up for the offseason workouts when they didn't think he was going to show up. Kirk's the best when it comes to just being the guy that, like, you got to deal with me. I'm not going to let this fester. You got to deal with me. And so that's where I've landed here too. If Pittsburgh hasn't called yet, maybe he's waiting to hear from them. Like, he's waiting to see, okay, if Rodgers does sign there, all right, then I'm open to going to A, B, or C. Whoever has been calling about it, does one of the old coordinators call? Like, is it McVay? Is it, O'Connell? Is it LaFleur? Like, if they call them about him being a backup to one of those places, maybe he's open to that. But I don't really know what he wants either. Would he rather go to a bad team and start, or just go to another team and be comfortable? Like, I think there is a little bit of a chatter there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see him going back to Minnesota. I think that would just be too complicated.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was throwing out the old coordinators. Yeah,
it's not going to be the Rams now, because they did just sign Stafford. And so they're not going to have both of them there. Like, that's not going to happen. So again, like, the one that actually always kind of made sense to me was San Francisco, honestly, because there is no contract for Brock Purdy yet. And, I don't know where their negotiations are. I would assume that, like, if they were going to throw at him a top 5 quarterback contract, that he would have signed it by now. But they must be, and I think wisely, balking at that. And whatever the number is that they come up with, that they agree to, which is going to be $40 to $50 million a year, they're making a mistake. And I think, like, the reason why this is taking so long is they know that. I honestly, if I was Kyle, I would rather draft someone again, bring in Kirk at a much lower number on a short term, and then try to make the next person Purdy again. Because at some point you have to make this choice. Can we really pay this guy this much money? The Giants went through this with Daniel Jones. I think the Cowboys, to a lesser degree, but only because they just messed up Dak's contract so badly, are going through it with Dak. I think Philadelphia's been hot and cold, although Hurts keeps winning, but hot and cold with him about the amount of money that he makes now. I like Brock Purdy. I think he gets slammed a little too much, but I also don't think he is worth a top 5 quarterback contract, especially when the talent around him is going to be decreasing over time. Is Christian McCaffrey going to play? I don't know. They just did re-sign Kittle. He never plays all 17 games anymore. Ayuk's coming off an injury. The other receivers are young and untested. I don't know, man. Like, Trent Williams is old now. They just lost their best guard. Like, can he actually elevate people? Well, they're going to pay him like he can. So I don't know. And I think that this is taking a long time, probably because San Francisco knows this, but they don't feel any other way to go. And the ownership loves the guy. And that, in the end, is the real, I guess, quote unquote problem here, because you can't tell the ownership no.
No, that's exactly right. Like, I've actually wondered this out loud. if you asked Lynch and Shanahan, do you actually want to re-sign this guy? I would love to hear their real answers. I'm sure
Probably if they were like for 20 to 30 million, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
right.
for that amount of our cap, no, is probably what it is.
I'm sure Shanahan is probably saying yes in general. But when he realizes whatever the number is going to look like, he's probably not about that life. Same thing with Lynch at that point as well. That's the other side of this too. Like if they were to trade for Cousins, well, somebody probably would step up and trade for Purdy. Like one of those quarterback needy teams would roll the dice. Like I pointed to like the Jets, like they would jump up.
I think the Giants would have done it. I think the Giants would have done it.
Right. Exactly. So like, I'm with you too. Like I think Purdy, it's funny though. Purdy gets criticized, but it's rightfully so. Like he's not this pedigree number 1 overall pick quarterback. Like we went through this a little bit with Kirk, but I think Kirk demonstrated he could perform in an offense that had pieces, but not elite pieces. Purdy, we haven't seen him in an offense where he doesn't have, a couple of first-round pick wide receivers and the best running back in the league and one of the best tight ends in the league, one of the best offensive lines in the league. It's valid questions for a guy that was drafted literally with the last pick.
Yes. Yeah, I think Tom Brady is a shadow that stands over everybody for all time because not only was, did he turn out to be the greatest quarterback of all time, he did it from where the draft position was at an athleticism level that is unusual. But he did have some skill set stuff. The processing part of it, obviously. The leadership part of it, obviously. The arm strength part of it, which was underrated for him. His height, like he's a really big guy. Like they got what looked like a really raw and really average to bad athlete who actually turned out to be a really cerebral leader player. And because of that, I think a lot of people look at this and they go, well, there's a lot of examples of people that you could be this. There really isn't. Like he's the one-off of all one-offs. There are plenty of really good quarterbacks that have come out that are not these top tier blue chip, were highly rated players early in their career or eventually became so obviously great, Jaden Daniels, that it was like impossible to ignore the talent that it was there. There are plenty of examples of quarterbacks who've been picked in the mid to lower rounds that have turned out to be very, very good players, but Brady's is the one-off of all one-offs. So when people compare him to Brady, I go, he's not that tall. He doesn't have this kind of arm strength. The leadership ability may or may not be there, but we're going to find out because he needs to elevate people. Like Brady for years and years and years also played with okay talent in general around him. There were times where Randy Moss was on his team, and there were times when Curtis Martin was on the team with him. But like in general, it's Wes Welker and Julian Edelman and David Branch and a number of other players that he elevated along the way. They had a really, really good team, but he elevated them. You don't know this about Purdy yet. Like that's the part about Purdy you do not know. He's had tier 1 A+ talent around him throughout the course of his young career, and it's starting to get siphoned off very, very, very slow. Is he going to be able to do that? Then he's going to be worth every penny if he's capable of it. That's where my pause is. And if I was Shanahan or Lynch, that's where their pause ought to be. Is this guy going to elevate other players, turn our rookie receivers into extremely competent players that put up big numbers? I don't know that. And with McCaffrey's future very much in doubt, Ayuk off of a knee injury, they didn't even want to sign him. Remember that? They didn't really want to sign him. They wanted to move on from him. Kittle's back. He's outstanding. Might be a Hall of Fame tight end, but he gets hurt every single year. The offensive line's going to be very different. Trent's old. I don't know, man. Like, we're going to find out if he is Brady or not. And my gut says he's not, that he's a good player who needs good players around him to actually have great seasons.
You also didn't bring up what I think is actually the most telltale sign of all of this is Kyle Shanahan has been able to take a lot of quarterbacks and put them in that system. Like Kirk Cousins was good because Shanahan had that system in place. They did have Jimmy Garoppolo get them to a freaking Super Bowl. Like, I think the other side of all this as well is that it's not like Shanahan hasn't been able to do this, right? It's not like it's a quarterback that's been linked to Shanahan that they need each other. I've never felt that way. Shanahan, I think, kind of just has a turnkey offense that if they find the guy with the right skill sets, they're good to go. Like, one of the most impressive things that they did, and as you know, I'm a pass-fail guy with quarterbacks. Trey Lance didn't touch that offense. It told you they knew, oh, crap, we drafted the wrong guy. Like, we knew we cannot have this guy starting. And Purdy being good enough. I'll give Purdy credit for that. But they knew, like, oh, this guy can't run this offense. And Purdy got the keys to the offense. This is the other side of this as well, is like Shanahan hasn't had these really high picks run his offenses. Cousins, 4th round pick. Garoppolo, 2nd round pick. And he was traded there too. He wasn't even drafted there, right? Purdy, late round pick. Like, this is where, to me, this is where I'm hesitant to pay him, because I have a head coach that's been able to get it done without having to get the guy in the 1st round. And in fact, when they did draft the guy in the 1st round, it was a disaster and it blew up in their face. So that's the other side of that as well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, real quick this weekend, it is rookie minicamp out in Ashburn. Like I said earlier, we were supposed to go out today. I'm not going out today because the weather's awful, so we'll be going out tomorrow. Of the storylines you'll hear about, obviously I want to see all the, the top picks and get a chance to talk to them. But Gabe Taylor is there, was signed as an undrafted free agent. This is the brother of Sean Taylor, so that's clearly going to be a big story. I think we'll all be very interested to hear what he just has to say. Right? Sure. Like, he clearly is a long shot to make the team. Undrafted free agent on a team that went 12-5. So, like, he's going to have to beyond impress. I think it's a really cool situation. I'll hear out others going, this is an emotional type of thing to kind of bring into the building. And I get that. I do want to hear what he has to say about it. And clearly he's going to have to make a really crazy impression to actually have a real shot to make the team. But let's see, so I think that's going to be interesting. So we'll see.
I was going to say too, though, like, it is a position that's not totally settled out with the depth. So, I mean, I will say
that's true.
that like, it is, it is a position that there's a chance.
Yes, there's a chance.
Like,
yes.
I'm saying, when I say chance, 1 to 5%. Like, I'm not putting any stock behind it, but it is a position that's not set. So I will say that.
It's a long shot though. Like, and he's gonna have to make a major impression. Absolutely. So, to really even have a shot to get to training camp, to really make a shot to do it. But I do want to hear what he has to say, because obviously his perspective on this and the history and all the things, and it's going to be very interesting to hear what he has to say. Probably be pretty emotional. So I want to see what happens with that this weekend. Other than that, I mean, I just want to get a look at Josh Connerly. I just want to get a look at Trey Amos. I want to get a look at Jalen Lane specifically, if we get a chance to take a look at him. The young running back as well. So, this is just first impressions. So, I don't think there's going to be a lot that's going to come out of this, but it will be first impressions. We'll see what other veterans are around, just kind of hanging around for all of this. So we'll see, but it's just first glimpses, and I've missed being out on the field. So I'm excited to get back out there and get the juices flowing a little bit. And then last thing before I take a break, I see the rumors of what's going on with the schedule. I have no internal knowledge of what's coming, other than we're all bracing for. This is going to be a schedule we haven't seen in a long time, which is where they're highly profiled. Very easily, they could be the opener against Philadelphia. Very easily, they could be on Thanksgiving in Dallas. Very easily, if they're not on Thanksgiving, they're playing on Christmas. Because that's, I think they're going to have multiple Monday night, Sunday night games. They're going to be highly profiled, obviously, because of what they did, what Jaden is. They're a big story, and they've always rated well, even when they weren't good. They've always rated well because they rate well on national TV. So they've always found a way to shoehorn them into these games in general, at least a couple of times. I think we're going to get 5 or 6 night games. I think that's going to happen. But I've also seen, the rumors about the international game, and I don't know for sure what's going on. And I don't know whether the team actually really wanted to do that this year or not. But you know me, I'm rooting for Spain. I like world travel. We haven't done any. I'm actually surprised we haven't been part of one. It's been 10 years. The last time they went overseas was to London when they played the tie against Cincinnati. Yep. But that was 10 years ago. So I think it's been their turn, because of the expansion of them in Germany, multiple London games, now Brazil, now Spain. I'm surprised just by sheer numbers they haven't been involved in one of these in the last 10 years. And I think their number probably just came up because, all the rumors are out there that that's what's going to happen, that they're going to play the Dolphins in Spain. So call me excited about it, because I like free world travel, and I've never been to Madrid. So I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. They haven't told me anything, and I don't know, but I hope it does. I mean, I'm actually rooting for it, even if the team might want, to not have another quirk in their schedule, because for all those other reasons, this is going to be a daunting schedule. They've got a lot of very high profile opponents in their division and in the 2 divisions that they're playing, the AFC West and the NFC North. I mean, they have high profile games, all of a sudden high profile windows, probably with a bunch of short weeks, a lot of it at night. This is a daunting schedule. You throw in a week in Europe in the middle of all of it, and it makes it even harder. So we'll probably know, I would assume, before the schedule actually comes out on Wednesday, whether they're part of this game or not. But I'm rooting for it, even amidst not going to put another quirk on this schedule, just because I think it'd be really cool to be part of the first ever NFL regular season game in that country. I think it'd be really cool to be part of that, and I hope it happens.
Well, I mean, I would just say this on the surface too. It's not far-fetched that this would happen with this team. Like Jaden Daniels is the guy that, to use a wrestling term, that's being pushed now. Like he is clearly a superstar in the league. The league 100%. Is going to give him the primetime games. It does not surprise me that for a game that will be the first game in that country, and let's be honest here, the opponents they've thrown out for these overseas games haven't been amazing. Like last year we joked about it. What did Germany do to deserve Giants Panthers, right? So like they haven't done the greatest job of putting out like these premier players. Like I know the Chiefs played there either this year or this past year or the year
Chiefs
before.
Played there last year.
So,
yep,
but like,
sent them over
but
there.
like
yep.
They haven't really gone out of their way to give up like these superstar teams or these really good teams. I think it does tell you that if this does come true, it's the league going, we want Jaden Daniels to try to hook a bunch of people over there so they can go and play him. For the other,
I would say this too for the Commanders, like if they are sent, I would be pushing them. Then fine, next year you're sending the Cowboys over there. Then fair is fair. Like you haven't sent them over there yet. Yeah. Like make it hard on them too.
No, exactly. If you go and look up, there are like these countries that have been claimed by NFL teams that they want, the people in that country to root for them or whatever. Like the Rams have a ton of them. There's a bunch of them. We're going to know before, what is it? Is it Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday is the schedule release.
Did you see the announcement of the announcements? Did you see this yet?
No.
Okay. So the NFL, like they have figured this thing out in such a genius way. They basically went out of their way to make an announcement about the announcements, plural, that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they're going to have each primetime entity announce their games. So like on Monday, like I'm going to get the order wrong here, but just bear with me. It was like Monday, Good Morning America is going to do all the ESPN games. Then on Tuesday, it's going to be ESPN, or maybe it wouldn't be ESPN because
Amazon.
But Amazon and Netflix are going to do their games. And then Wednesday is NBC is going to announce their Sunday night games in the opener. Like I saw that and I went, you guys are just like, you get it these days. Like you're going to now have everybody talking about a set of games leading into the set of games on Wednesday. So yeah, we're going to know some of these games too. The international games were a part of it. That's why I remembered that. So basically we're going to know the primetime games going into Wednesday.
And honestly, this is like the social media teams, you're on the clock. Schedule release videos has become can't miss viewing from the 32 teams. And especially if you do a really good one, you got to one up yourself the next year.
Yep.
Like the Chargers have been amazing at it. Tennessee a couple of years ago did the one on the street on Broadway where they had the people calling the Falcons the Red Stallions and the Cowboys the Colts and all this stuff. It was really amazing. So it's become can't miss NFL content, schedule release videos. So we'll see. All right, let me take a quick break and I'll get into the caps next. Brad Boyce Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season, we're through the first month. It is in full swing. We're heading into the home stretch here for the NBA and the NHL playoffs as they have moved into their semifinal rounds. And BetOnline has more ways to stay in on all of the action. Latest odds, news, scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from MLB, NHL, UFC, BetOnline remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, welcome back. The Capitals are not going to go out like they did in game one. They win game two at home. I'd like to thank publicly my friends over at Monumental, specifically my buddy Darren, who hooked me up with some tickets last night. That was my son's first ever Caps playoff game. So we got to go last night. It was awesome. Tom Wilson remains one of my favorites. If not, it's just so hard to say it when Ovi's still on the team. He is maybe my favorite Capital of all time. The way he plays, he blows people up, and then he had a pass for the ages on a power play that gave him what ultimately was the game-winning goal, and then he salted it away with the empty net goal. He is a humongous reason why they're in this series right now, because we were talking about this the other day. They've got no choice but to be more physical with this team. This team is relentless. They are incredible at forechecking. They are on you. They do not stop. They're big. But I do think Washington has more skilled scorers and are just going to have to stand up and get into the fight with these guys. Otherwise, a mucked up thing with them could turn into a couple of soft goals. And I'll get to Thompson in a moment. It hasn't happened yet. And that's where things go sideways here. And it hasn't. And I appreciated Wilson's effort last night. He was outrageously great for them.
Tom Wilson has turned into their best all-around player. I think for a couple of years there, we knew how good Tom Wilson was, but Tom Wilson somehow I don't want to call it late in his career, but he's about to, be in his 30s. He somehow has now turned into the best version of himself. And I've talked about it a little bit. A couple of years ago, he had the knee injury, and that takes a couple of years to recover from because you're not working out. You're jumping into the season. You know how this works. So now this is the first time where he had a full off season to train, and all of a sudden, he's a force. And I said it earlier in the show, Ovechkin literally said out loud, he's our leader. I mean, when the captain and the guy that's been here for 20 years says that, that's a kind of a passing of the torch moment. And I want to actually go to the press conference last night where they do a podium and they do the locker room. And the podium last night was Logan Thompson and Tom Wilson. Mm-hmm. And Tom Wilson was actually kind of geeking at this press conference. They asked Thompson how he felt about Wilson and he said he's been the best, whatever. But Wilson pretty much joked that, you got to do what you got to do. They were like, oh, you had 2 blocks. And he was like, I only had 2. The guys upstairs need to rewatch that because I blocked a bunch more. He was saying stuff that I was like, oh, my God, Wilson's opening up here a little bit, too. And when he's doing that and he's kind of exuding that confidence, that does a lot for a team to drag them into the fight. And the one thing that I will fold in here before I talk about the Caps is I talked about it on my show yesterday. What you need to watch out for now is Carolina psychologically is the Capitals from 10, 15 years ago. They have not gotten over the hump. They've gotten injuries. They've fallen apart. But they have all these skill position guys, and they haven't been able to get to the Stanley Cup yet. And now all of a sudden, you had a game like last night where the Capitals started playing their game against you.
Yes.
And they had no answer for their game against you. Oh, and then let's go ahead and score a power play goal on you, the first one you give up in these playoffs. Psychologically here, this is where it's actually going to tilt, I think, because the Capitals are going to settle in. Carolina, I bet you there's some doubt creeping in on them a little bit. So that's where I think there's a huge factor here that you're going to have to watch out for moving forward.
The other one, too, is I thought Connor McMichael, who I thought was outstanding in the Montreal series, was not good in game 1. Amongst a number of the reasons was not good. Got an opportunity and made the most of it. It's all I can ask for the guy. He also seemed more locked in again last night. This team has more skilled scorers than that team does. So that's going to be one of the differences here because Washington, I think, feels like, to me, could make the most of their opportunities because they have the players that can do it. You saw it with McMichael. Mangiapane played really well last night, too, was kind of all over the place and was kind of creating some opportunities. It's hard with these guys. They forecheck really, really well. They are very disciplined. They're kind of relentless, but every once in a while, I feel like what you're saying is what I feel too. They have a harder time scoring. The volume doesn't bother me with them because they take a lot of just ridiculous off angle. They're just throwing the puck at the net, throwing the puck at the net, throwing the puck at the net. The shots on goal is what matters to me. The shots number doesn't bother me that much because it's a shooting range. It's just all over the place. And Thompson is so locked in that I'm not worried about him giving up some junky goal, but they just muck it up, and they're looking for dirty goals to happen, and eventually they might. I like our chances. If they have another game where they can only manage a goal, even though they've got 8 million more chances and the forecheck is winning on them, I'll hear you out on this may frustrate them. They lose another game like this where they probably feel like they're outplaying the other team, but they're on the wrong side of the scoreboard or they're having to come back because they're not getting real great opportunities or not burying the great opportunities. I could see where that would end up really frustrating them. And I do think we do have, and this is rare in the years that we've been around this, it happened in the Stanley Cup year with Holtby. We very rarely have the advantage in goaltending. And we have here in the last series against a team that wasn't as good as the Capitals. It's on par with them, if not better across the board. But we have a goaltending advantage. And that gives me some confidence too. I still feel like in the end, we're going to have to steal this a little bit because there are periods of time in the game we can't even clear a puck out of our own end. They are so relentless on their forecheck. I'll give them a lot of credit. Like, they do not back off. It doesn't matter what the score is or how frustrated they may be. They've got 800 shots and 2 goals. Like, I could see where that's mounting on them. And a lot of that is watch Thompson. He's so locked in. Like, it's great. And I think you said this after game 1, and I feel the same way. It's not the volume that bothers me. He's not having to make outrageous saves. He's just getting the puck's on his end of the ice too much. That's all. That's all it is. Like, he's not making these sprawling, diving, game-saving saves. He's not being forced to do anything like that, but he does have to stay locked in because they're nonstop. And the Capitals, there are periods of time in the game where they're not giving him a break. And that's where I get worried. It takes 1 or 2 soft goals and one of these games goes the wrong way.
What I'll say, though, is unlike a lot of those early Caps teams, though, is there's a buy-in here. They get down and block just about every attempt or try to block every attempt. Like, that was one of the problems, I think, early on in the Ovechkin era was I don't think you had that buy-in to get down and take these block shots. There were a couple guys that would, but not the whole team. I'm seeing that right off the jump. Like, game 1, I forget what the blocked shot number was, but it was ridiculous. And then last night, I think they blocked just as many shots as they did in game 1, if not more. So that's the other thing. There is a buy-in, at least in front of Thompson, that I'm not as worried about with some of these, other teams that we've had in the past here. The other factor here too is, like you mentioned, McMichael. McMichael was the best player on the ice in game 1. I'm still waiting for some guys to kind of find it a little bit. Like, I want Dylan Strome to be a little bit more of a player. He had 10 points, in the first round, was the leading scorer. He's got another gear. I know he's got another gear. Protas, I know he still has another gear. I know he scored in game 1, but I think he could be a little bit better. The other thing that happened here too is the last night, the fourth line settled in, and look what happened. It kind of was a trickle-down effect. Anthony Beauvillier showed up again last night. He didn't score, but he had some really good chances, and he missed that wide-open net, which I thought was going to haunt us if we didn't win last night. But all of a sudden, I see the trickle-down of what happened with scratching Leonard and seeing that happen. I expect the lineup to be the same. And here's one other thing that I'll just say outright and why I was so confident last night. Spencer Carberry needs to be commended. This team doesn't play 2 bad games in a row. Like, they refuse to fall into any kind of groove when things go wrong for them. And the fact is that they pretty much looked at that game 1, and we knew on Wednesday morning they were already moving past it. And then there was last night, and the first period was a little bit rough. Then the second period, they turned it around, and third period was a little bit of the same. But the third period, they looked much better this time around. And if you're the Hurricanes too, they did only score on the power play. Like, I'm sorry, that's a bad game if you didn't score on 5-on-5. So I still think psychologically here, Caps have an advantage.
Yeah, I trust this team. Like, I totally trust. I like the coaching. I like this room. I like the experience there. I like how hard they play, and so I trust that this is gonna be a long series. But like, the tide's got to turn with the possession and getting out of your zone and getting a few more opportunities. It was freewheeling from late in the first period through most of the second, and then it tightened up again. And the third period, once again, was like the first half of the first period, where not only they're not even getting a real opportunity, and they're just squeezing their butts, hoping that Carolina doesn't score after just circling their zone over and over and over and over. And that's just not going to last forever. Like, you're asking Thompson, who, again, I don't think is being forced to make a million great saves. He's not being forced to do that, but he's being forced to mentally stay locked in so much so just to ensure that nothing soft gets in on you, or it takes one bad carom off the boards, or one pass that gets through someone's legs, and then all of a sudden you're down 1-0 against a relentless team. Like, I think they're fortunate that they've given up 2 goals within regulation through these 2 games. Like, I think they're fortunate that has happened. That's partially, I think this team doesn't have a lot of skilled finishers. It's partially because they're not looking to set up great plays. It's volume, chuck, hoping to have something happen. And it's partially Thompson has been playing really, really well. It takes one of these two games down there just to kind of turn sideways. You give up a couple bad goals and you're not going to win. So this is going to be a grind. Like, it's going to be a real grind, but I do trust the Capitals that they're going to be in this, and this is going to be a long series.
Yeah, I mean, I'll point back to what I said before this series, though, or not before the series, but after game one, where the Capitals have been this team before, though, where they have gone on full volume. Those games against the Rangers, remember them early on in the Ovechkin era where they would have like 40 shots on goal, but they lose 2-1.
And it's frustrating.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, I've seen this movie before, and I've been on both sides of it.
That's
so I'm
true,
not as worried.
The difference was those Capitals teams had Hall of Fame scorers that weren't scoring. This team doesn't.
Right.
That they're facing, right?
Right, and that's what I'm getting at here. I think it's the beast. I think it's the the burden of the beast here is that, like, I think looking at them, I'm not as worried. I get it, it's close, but it's also the Stanley Cup playoffs where this is chaos. But because they don't have that, I guess I'm not as worried about them blowing them out of the water. You split down in Carolina this weekend.
I agree.
I'm feeling really good about this series. Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly.
Then it's on. I agree. If they can just get one of them, it's on. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Watch the show is at 6:30 Sports Capital. All right, I'm only going to spend a few minutes on this because we don't have a lot of time, but also partially because I'm not surprised this has happened. Maybe I didn't expect this to be this bad, but I saw one of the major MLB reporters already put out there that the Orioles are almost certain to be sellers at the trade deadline. Here we are in early May. They're already saying it because the AL East is good. The Yankees were in the World Series a year ago. They're off to another really good start. Boston's a lot better than they were a year ago. Toronto's better, like it should be good. Probably for a couple of years, probably should have been better than they've been. And the Orioles with this incredible young lineup, they're not scoring runs. They don't have any pitching. They're 13-23, second worst record in the AL. They're 70 runs scored behind New York already. And there's already a belief that it's not going to get fixed. And I don't know why you would believe it's going to be fixed. They have no starting pitching. Like they have no real answer on that side of it. And like, geez, in the offseason, it was like, you got to go get your Jason Worth, someone to settle down, just get a veteran in here who knows how to win and settles this young group down because they have a lot of talent in there. And secondarily, you got to replace Corbin Burns with somebody. Like, you got to go get a pitcher in here. They didn't do either one of those things. So shocker, they did a reboot without their ace after they fell apart last year, made no other changes, and they stink. Wow, call me shocked. So all the naysayers who said the Orioles were going to blow what is the golden goose of having all of these young players, it's coming true. This season's already lost, and we're in the middle of May. It's terrible.
Yeah, this one is rough. I was waiting because they played in the afternoon yesterday. I was obviously waiting for the game to end to get into my show, and they were tied 2-2 with the Twins. The Twins got two men on in the bottom of the eighth inning, and I was like, here we go again. They're going to blow this, and they did. They lost 5-2. And I think with them too, I don't really understand their thinking here. Like, and I want to know now, was it Rubenstein not wanting to spend already? Was it Elias really thinking that they were okay at this point? But they have not been right since the beginning. And the fact of the matter is, you mentioned it with the rest of the division. I went through the division yesterday. The Yankees are like 8 games up, okay, right, over 500. You have the Red Sox who, 2 years ago when the Orioles got good, the Red Sox were resetting, right? Remember I told you this, how like their fans even were like, we're not even in it right now. They're 500 this year, so they're going to be much better. And then you go with the Rays and the Blue Jays, they're like both 3 games below 500, but tied for 3 and 4. And then there's the Orioles 3 games behind them. They can't catch up. Like, there's no way they're going to catch up to any of these teams because I look at all 4 of those and think they've got better pitching on all 4 of those teams. This is just a shame because you're burning a year of all of those guys in their prime. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins, all those guys. You're burning a year that you thought you could just run it back. You didn't. I expect wholesale changes, at least with the coaching staff, by the end of the year. I would think that that's going to be the first thing to get changed up here. But you can't fix it overnight anyways. So I'm with you. They should be sellers. At least Elias can add to the prospect pool. But now you run into like the Nats question. You're going to add prospects. What are you going to spend? Because if you're not going to spend, I don't know what I'm really rooting for here.
Yeah, this is it. Let me explain to you. I could be your GM right now. Okay, I'll tell you what to do. you're going to pick 2 people that you're going to give extensions to right now. The people that you believe, Gunnar Henderson is obviously one of them, and I would think Adley Rushman's the other, but that's in question, honestly, at this point. But like Gunnar Henderson's a no-doubter. You sign them now. Give them what they want. Send a message to the organization, to everybody. We're going to pay our guys. 2, you are going to make choices about all these other players that there's no room for them, or you got to figure out what to do with them, and you're going to trade them for high-level, almost ready major league pitching talent tomorrow, so that next year you've got the 2 key people, whoever they are, Gunnar Henderson's one of them, signed, ready to go. You're going to clear up this log jam because there's going to be a line out the door to trade for your players because they know you're sellers and you have really, really, really good players on your team. Get pitchers back and reboot for next year. Sorry to Brandon Hyde. He's probably going to be a casualty of all of this. And frankly, Mike Elias, you got a lot of explaining to do. How did you build up all of these young players and not manage the roster correctly to have any pitching whatsoever, or figure out how to clear up a logjam or not tick off all of these guys? Guys, like, you were set up for a golden goose. You're blowing it. There's a chance to reboot this fast, but you're going to have to make some serious moves now this year and next December to reboot this team around for next year.
I'll just give you an own goal on this one too. I was reading on ESPN, like, what was the worst thing about each team, like best and worst thing about each team. And the Orioles won it for worst giveaway of the year. There was a David Rubenstein bobblehead at some point in the first couple months of the season. And they were like, didn't read the room on that one, guys. So they did win on that one off the field too. So.
I will trust your scouts on everything, but I'll tell you what you need to do to fix this for next year right now.
Yep,
I can tell you how to do it. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.